Emotional maturity is a byproduct of emotional healing. Therefore, an individual who is emotionally mature is also the same type of individual that is actively and intentionally doing the internal healing necessary for them to transcend old traumas, childhood conditioning and programming, and anything else that may be internally affecting their external world. And when I mean external world, I do mean relationships. I do mean the experiences that they have, circumstances in their lives that continue to reoccur. When an individual is doing that inner work, it's going to show in their character as a byproduct of emotional maturity, which is why it is of the utmost importance for us to know the indicators, the true signs of when somebody is emotionally mature, because this shows us, is that person really doing that work? And if we are that person, it shows us, or it reflects back to us, if we're doing that work necessary for us to overcome those past limiting beliefs, those past traumas, those past circumstances and situations that hold most people in limbo, most people in the same negative cycles in their life. So that being said, let's get into the 6 signs that you indeed are emotionally maturing. Now, I want to get right into it. Number 1 is everything is everybody else's fault. Now, this is a direct, clear, telltale sign that an individual is still in a state of emotional immaturity. When an individual is blaming the circumstances and situations in their lives on everybody else but themselves, they're very much in that state of immaturity. They're very much in that state of not being willing to take responsibility for their own lives. Now, I'm not talking about when you're first unpacking and you're truly getting to the bottom of some of these things that have been affecting you all your life. And you start to see that, oh, this might have come from, parents. This might have come from guardians. This might have come from teachers, friends, whoever it may be. At first, you become aware of where these stories are coming from and where they came from, how you internalize them. But if you stay in that state of blame forever, then that means you're not maturing into actual healing. It is not our role, it is not our place to stay in a place where we're continuing to point the finger at mama and daddy and auntie and cousins and nephews. And it's not the place for us to stay in a point of blame. I don't care if it's your ex and they're the most toxic ex on the planet. If you're still blaming them for the circumstances of your life now, then it means you are not yet maturing or allowing yourself to mature to that next stage of healing. Number 2. Communication means them talking and you listening, or them talking and somebody else listening. Now, we often talk about communication being a key in relationships, right? True, authentic, clear communication between 2 parties. Communication does not mean one person is looking to be right. One person is looking to have a leg up on somebody else. One person is looking to be the winner. That is not true communication. Therefore, when an individual is always looking to be the one who is always speaking, who is always getting their point across, who is always being heard, and the other party is never considered, and I do mean never, and you probably know these type of individuals who never want to consider anybody else's opinion besides their own. This is a telltale sign of emotional immaturity. This person is not yet ready or has not allowed themselves to get to the point where they can actually receive somebody else's worldview. Their ego is too big and is too fragile, and it will be bruised and wounded if somebody else says something that might come off as a criticism or something that even is supposed to be helpful. They would take that as an offense. They would take that as an attack. Therefore, you will find these individuals often defending themselves by being the only one who occupies that space within any conversation that has to do with the issues of the heart or the matters of the heart per se. Number 3, they make other people's responsibility, or they make their emotions other people's responsibility. Now, this one is one that almost all of us have probably been guilty of at some point or points in our lives. When we see those around us as being basically the managers of our emotions. And so we become offended easily, we take things personally, and we see it as other people's responsibility to nurture and take care of our emotions. And when you are a child, when you are an infant, when you are being raised, it is of the utmost importance for the people who raised you to give you a sense of security, a certainty that you are okay, and therefore they are nurturing you and they're not looking to bruise or wound you emotionally. Right? However, For many individuals walking this planet, they have raised up or were raised up in households where this was not the case. They were raised up in households where they might have been parents who were so broken themselves that they could do nothing but break their child, break the very person that they were called to nurture into life. And this does happen. However, when you continue that same sentiment of having other people be responsible for your emotions, you're actually giving your entire power base away. Because if you're giving them the power over emotions, the authority over your emotions, you are also giving them the authority over your thoughts, because emotions are a byproduct of your thoughts. And whoever controls your mind, whoever controls your thought process, controls you. Therefore, this person becomes the very person who is in control of you, and you are the only one giving the power away. So when you find an individual who is always looking to be coddled emotionally by others, or is basically blaming others for why they feel a certain type of way all the time, this pattern is a telltale sign of absolute emotional immaturity. And this type of person is going to be in your life, and they will continue to have you coddle their emotions. And if you still have those codependent aspects of your own personality, if you have not done the healing to truly overcome those, not just cope with them, but truly heal through those, then you will find yourself always looking to coddle somebody's emotions as if they were still a child. Number 4 is they act as the victim in toxic relationships that they choose to get into or stay in willingly. Now, you might find yourself in a situation where you've attracted, narcissists, you've attracted toxic individuals, or individuals who are filled with toxic traits. I'll call it that, right? And maybe you stayed around because you had a lot of healing to do. Maybe you stayed around because you had a low self-esteem, a low sense of self, a low self-worth. Many people I come into contact with say, I just didn't know this person was like this. However, there's a point in which you see as clear as day, and the world can see as clear as day, that this is a toxic relationship. Yet, for some reason, you or the other person continues to go back into these toxic relationships, finding themselves back in these negative cycles, and then acts the victim, acts as if they're the ones who is being victimized in that situation or circumstance, as opposed to making the God-given right decision to leave that person, to leave that situation, to leave that circumstance. And again, this might be something you relate to, because I know I do. When I was in a state of emotional immaturity, I got right back into a dynamic. Well, it wasn't a relationship per se. Like at one point we were together in an intimate relationship, and then after it was not an intimate relationship. But I still made the decision to get back in an individual's life who still had many of these toxic traits that they had not healed through. And I was choosing to, and yet I was also viewing myself as the victim. I was viewing myself as the one who was in a place of powerlessness, and I could do nothing about what this person was doing to me, saying about me, etc. And so when you find yourself in this, or if you see somebody who finds themselves in these cycles and they continue to come to you, maybe they're a best friend, a cousin, somebody you love in your life who is always in a toxic relationship and is always acting as if they're the victim in this relationship, but they keep staying, this is an individual who is emotionally immature. And this person will only look to drain those around them because that's all they know to do. They only know to siphon somebody else's energy because they've given away their own power base. Number 5 is they project insecurities onto others. Now, this one is a telltale sign of just all woundedness. Any individual who has not yet healed from those scars of old, an individual has not forgiven themselves and others and let go of situations that kept them in this pattern. What will happen is, or even an individual just suppressing emotions, right? The lack of expression of true and authentic emotions to let them out and let them go. When you are perpetually in that state, you will suppress your emotions to the point where they will start to leak out, right? You can't get rid of something by trying to hide it. You literally have to transcend it. You have to transform it. You have to overcome it. You have to become aware of it, and you have to allow it to become something else. And the only way that happens, like how does a wound turn into a scar that turns into basically a healed, even stronger part of your skin, is it has to go through a process, and an intentional process. And so a multitude of individuals will basically find themselves projecting their own woundedness, their own repressed and suppressed emotions onto others. And that would show itself in anger. It would show itself in passive aggressive behaviors and sometimes in very destructive behaviors. And when that starts to happen, those around them are going to be hurt in the process. So therefore, it is our own responsibility to be able to see those things within ourselves or see those things within others, to recognize those and know what's going on and make our decision accordingly. If it's us, it's time to heal. If it's with somebody else, we do the best that we can to plant those seeds of healing. We do the best that we can to speak into their lives. We can't do anything for them, however. They have to make the decision that they want to heal. And if it's not that important to them, then we have to let that situation go. And number 6, they only give when they know that something is going to be given in return, or only with the expectation of a return from that person. Now, universal principle says that giving and receiving are one in the same flow. They're one in the same energy. Therefore, to give is to receive is to give. And it's a beautiful cycle of life. However, when you find an individual who only gives when they want something, who only is willing to give because they see an opportunity of getting something from the other person. They use it as a means of manipulation. They use it as a means of extracting something from somebody else. This is the type of individual who is not matured emotionally or spiritually. They don't understand that life is perpetually giving to them. They're an individual who is living in a scarcity mindset, that I'm only going to do for you. I'm only going to, give out any type of energy, any type of time, any type of resources. I will only do it so long as you give me something. And usually they'll do trade-offs, right? Usually it will be an obvious trade-off. Okay, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And you find this a lot in relationships. It's like, okay, but what are you doing for me, right? Like the what have you done for me lately type of mentality. And I'm not saying a relationship should not be equal. It should not be balanced. But a true relationship isn't about keeping score. It's not about keeping tabs. It's about expressing from a true place of genuine love. It's in the expression of, I'm doing this for you because I feel for you, because there's something within me that is so compelling. I just want to give. And when we learn to give from this unconditional place, we know that we never lack, and our lives will start to manifest from a place of abundance. However, an individual who is immature emotionally will not understand this, and they're in such a fear-based state that they are basically in this place of fight or flight, right? They're in survival mode, and so they are looking to extract. They're looking to take. They're looking for them to give one so they can get two in return. They always want something for what they are doing, and they will complain about not receiving something for what they're doing continuously. And so, again, it is of our own responsibility to witness and acknowledge that within ourselves, like, where are we being that type of individual? And then to come to a point of realizing, like, we truly live in an abundant world. Like, we truly live in a world that you might give here and receive it in a completely different place, a completely different way, but you don't have to worry about receiving. Like, do because you are full. Do because your cup runneth over. Don't do because you're looking for somebody to give you something right back. That's a business transaction. And most of them suck. Yeah. So, I want to run through these one more time real fast. Number 1 is everything is somebody else's fault. Number 2 is they see communication as a one-way street. Number 3, they make other people's emotions their own responsibility. Number 4, they act a victim in toxic relationships that they choose to be in. Number 5, they project their own insecurities onto others. And number 6, they only give when they want something in return. Now, there could be a list of 1,000 of these characteristics, but these, I believe, truly kind of nicely package the different main themes, or the things that you can truly look out for internally when it's time to be self-aware, which is all the time, or externally when you're looking into the world that you're really manifesting. So technically it's not external because you're manifesting the world around you in the first place. However, when it comes to identifying these things, because even if we're attracting individuals with these characteristics, or we're finding ourselves, despising or hating these characteristics in somebody else, it's also an opportunity for us to realize that they might be characteristics that we ourselves are projecting or we are suppressing, but there's still some part of our own being that we need to heal from, that we need to transcend and overcome. And I think that's the deepest value there is in this. It's not about pointing blame and pointing fingers and saying, look at you, like, oh, I'm going to send this video to you because you ain't mature. That's not the point of this. Like, that's not my intention. My intention is for self-awareness. My intention is for us to see the things that are, or we are putting in our own way, in the way of our greatest good? Like, what are those blocks and self-imposed limitations that we're putting in the way of our absolute greatness? That's the intention that I hold. And so I hope that these are the same intentions you can hold for yourself as you listen to this video and a multitude of other pieces of content that are basically only for that purpose. They are not for blaming. They're not for staying in the state. They're not for, if I talk about like narcissists, it's not to continue to be obsessed about the subject matter of narcissism. It's about healing. It's about coming to a place where you overcome those internal aspects of yourself. You no longer hold on to the things that you've been holding on to for so long that started to hold on to you. That's the purpose of what we're doing here. And so if you're somebody on that journey, somebody in the journey of healing, of true transcendence from where you are to where you desire to be, I want to extend an olive branch to you. And I'm opening up my calendar for one-on-one coaching. So if you're interested, make sure to go in the description or the bio below, click the button, book your time, book your day, and let's get on a call. Let's get some breakthroughs. All right. I appreciate you. Much love. Peace.